If you are currently taking metoprolol, atenolol, or bisoprolol, there is something you deserve to hear clearly, without sugarcoating. Your heart may not actually be getting stronger. It may just be getting quieter. The numbers on your blood pressure reading might look better, but that does not always mean the underlying problem is being solved. In many cases, the real issue is still there, operating silently in the background, placing stress on your system every single day. Most doctors are not wrong, but they are often limited by time. In a short appointment, they focus on stabilizing the numbers. What they usually do not have the time to explain is what is driving those numbers in the first place, and what continues happening inside your body even after the medication begins to work. In the next few minutes, you are going to understand what is actually happening inside your body in a way that is rarely explained in a typical medical visit. You will see why simply lowering a number is not the same as restoring balance, and how certain everyday foods can influence the same biological pathways that these medications target. More importantly, you will learn exactly how to use them in a practical, realistic way that fits into your daily life, so you can begin supporting your body instead of just suppressing the signals it is trying to send. To understand this, you only need to see one simple truth about your body. You have a built-in system that controls how your heart, blood vessels, and stress response behave. One side pushes you into action, raising your heart rate, tightening your vessels, and preparing you to deal with pressure. The other side does the opposite. It slows things down, relaxes the system, and allows your body to repair itself. In a healthy state, you move between these two modes naturally throughout the day. But for many people, that switch gets stuck. It is like sitting in a parked car while the engine is still revving at 4,000 revolutions per minute. Nothing looks urgent on the outside, but inside, everything is working harder than it should, wearing down over time without obvious warning. And this is where things become interesting, because there are specific foods that can directly influence this exact system, helping your body shift out of that constant overdrive and back toward balance, if you use them the right way. The first food is something most people overlook because it seems too simple to matter. And that is exactly why it works so well when used correctly. Celery contains a natural compound that helps relax the smooth muscles around your blood vessels, allowing them to open more easily. When your vessels are more open, your heart does not have to push as hard to move blood through your body. Think of it like a garden hose with a kink in it. The pressure builds until you straighten the hose, and then everything flows with less effort. Your heart responds the same way, but the benefit only shows up when you use it properly. You need about 4 stalks a day, ideally split between morning and evening, and it must be consumed raw or blended. Cooking it at high heat breaks down the active compounds, turning something therapeutic into something much less effective. The second food goes deeper into the biology and gives you a clearer sense of how powerful nutrition can actually be. Fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, and sardines are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA, which directly influence how your heart rhythm and inflammatory system behave. These fats help reduce the low-grade inflammation that keeps your stress response elevated, and they also act on the electrical pacing system of your heart, helping it settle into a more stable rhythm. Studies have shown that consistent intake can lower resting heart rate by several beats per minute, which may sound small but reflects a meaningful shift in how hard your cardiovascular system is working. To get this effect, you need about 4 ounces, 3 to 4 times per week. And the preparation matters. Baking or grilling preserves the structure of these fats, while frying can oxidize them and reverse the benefit entirely. And before we go further, there is something you need to know. One of the foods on this list can lose most of its effect if you prepare it the wrong way. And most people are doing exactly that without realizing it. The third food is beets. And this is where things start to connect on a deeper level. Beets are rich in natural nitrates, which your body converts into nitric oxide, one of the most powerful signals for relaxing and widening your blood vessels. When nitric oxide increases, your vessels open, resistance drops, and your heart no longer has to push against that constant pressure. It is not forcing the heart to slow down artificially. It is removing the friction that makes the heart work harder in the first place. That distinction matters. But there is another layer that most people miss, and it is timing. Nitric oxide production from beets peaks a few hours after you consume them, which means if you eat them in the evening, you are aligning that peak with your body's natural shift into recovery mode. That is when your system is supposed to relax, repair, and reset. and beets can support that transition in a very real, measurable way. The fourth food is where most people realize they have been doing something wrong for years without ever questioning it. Garlic is widely known for its heart benefits, but what almost no one explains is that its most important compound, allicin, does not exist in a ready-to-use form. It is only created when you crush or chop garlic and allow a specific enzyme process to take place. Here is the mistake that destroys most of the benefit. People cut garlic and immediately throw it into a hot pan. The heat shuts down the enzyme before allicin is fully formed, leaving you with flavor, but very little of the cardiovascular effect. The difference comes down to one simple habit. After crushing or chopping garlic, let it sit for about 10 minutes before cooking or consuming it. That short window allows the conversion to complete, locking in the active compound. Once that process has happened, the compound itself is much more stable. Even with heat, that single adjustment can dramatically increase the impact of something you are probably already eating. The fifth food is something most people enjoy, which makes it one of the easiest to stay consistent with. Dark chocolate, when it contains at least 85% cocoa, is rich in flavonols that support blood vessel function and help reduce cortisol, the primary stress hormone that keeps your system in a heightened state. Lower cortisol sends a signal to your body that it is safe to relax, which directly supports the shift out of constant overdrive. But the quality matters more than people think. Many products labeled as dark chocolate still contain enough sugar to cancel out much of the benefit. To get the effect, you need about 1 ounce per day of high cocoa content chocolate, ideally in the afternoon when your natural stress hormones are already beginning to decline. This turns a simple habit into a consistent signal that helps your system reset instead of staying stuck in tension. I want to briefly introduce you to someone I will call Bob. He was in his early 50s, doing everything he thought he was supposed to do, taking his medication, going to work, showing up for his family. At one point, he decided on his own to cut back on his prescription because he felt something was not right. Within a few days, his heart rate spiked, his blood pressure surged, and he came dangerously close to ending up in the emergency room. That moment changed how he saw everything, and this is where I need to be completely clear with you. You cannot stop beta blocker medication suddenly. Not sometimes, not carefully on your own, not just because you feel different. Your body adapts to these drugs at a biological level, and removing them too quickly can trigger a rebound that is not just uncomfortable, but potentially dangerous. Any change in medication has to be done with medical supervision, with a plan, and with data to support it. This is not optional advice. It is a safety requirement. When Bob sat across from me, what stood out was not just his numbers. It was how disconnected he felt from his own life. He told me he had always been sharp, organized, someone people relied on at work. But over the past year, that version of him had slowly disappeared. He was forgetting details, missing deadlines, making small mistakes that began to add up. His energy was gone before the day even started, like he was waking up already exhausted. At home, things were shifting in a way he could not ignore. His wife noticed it before he fully understood it himself. He was physically present, but emotionally distant, like something essential had been turned down inside him. And then he said something that I have heard more than once, but it never loses its weight. He said, "I feel like I'm watching my own life through a window. I'm there, but I'm not really in it." That is what finally pushed him to question whether simply lowering his blood pressure number was actually solving the problem he was living with every day. And this is where the perspective needs to change. The goal is not to abruptly remove medication or to prove that you can function without it. The goal is to rebuild the conditions inside your body that allow it to regulate itself again. That means supporting the nervous system, reducing the constant stress signals, and creating a physiological environment where your heart no longer has to compensate in the same way. Medication can still play a role, especially in the beginning, but it should be part of a broader strategy, not the entire solution. When you combine consistent habits, targeted nutrition, and real data with guidance from your physician, you give your body a path to stabilize from the inside out instead of relying only on external control. When you approach this the right way, your body often responds faster than you expect, but in stages that build on each other. In the first week, many people notice a subtle but important shift in their resting heart rate, especially in the morning, along with slightly better sleep as the nervous system begins to settle. By the second week, the change becomes more noticeable in daily energy, particularly in the afternoon, when that constant internal strain starts to ease. Around the fourth week, you typically begin to see measurable changes in blood pressure readings. Not dramatic overnight drops, but consistent improvements that show your system is recalibrating. By the third month, you have something most people never collect: real data over time. And that is what gives your physician a solid, evidence-based reason to consider adjusting your medication safely, if appropriate. Now I want you to think about your current routine for a moment. Out of these 5 foods, how many are already part of your weekly diet right now? Not what you intend to do, but what you are actually doing consistently. I want you to write that number in the comments. Just the number. Because that single answer reveals more about your current trajectory than most people realize. And it is often where the biggest opportunity for change begins. If you want a structured way to apply everything you just learned, I've put together a complete guide that walks you through it step by step. It includes simple tracking sheets, timing guidelines, and a clear system for monitoring your blood pressure and heart rate over time, so you are not guessing. You are seeing real data. You can find it in the description below. And it is designed to help you stay consistent and measure progress in a way that actually matters. Your body is not broken. It has been responding exactly the way it was designed to respond to the signals it has been given over time. The stress, the habits, the patterns, they all add up, but so do the corrections. You do not need to change everything overnight. You only need to begin with one action that you can repeat, one adjustment that your body can recognize. Because when you change one signal, you begin to change the system. And when the system begins to shift, everything else follows. One small step becomes the first domino, and once it moves, the direction of your health can start to move with it.